Hey guys, Dr. Childs here. Today we're going to be talking about 6 lessons that I have learned after helping thousands and thousands of thyroid patients. Now, over the last 5 years or so, I have had the opportunity to help, and I've been very grateful for this, to help thousands and thousands of thyroid patients, either through talking with them on emails, either through working with them one-on-one, or interacting with them on my blog or on social media, etc. But I've had the opportunity to interact with many of you out there, perhaps even some of you listening to this right now. And what I have done is I've compiled a list of the most important things that I have learned to help people who have thyroid problems get better faster. Because if it's one thing that I've noticed, there are a lot of misconceptions and ways that people are going about things which are just incorrect. And I want to try to correct those things right now. So these are the lessons that I've learned. Hopefully, if you're just new to the thyroid, or even if you're not new, these things will be beneficial to you and they will help you get to the end goal, which is not to let your thyroid control your life. Okay, so let's start with number one. Number one, act fast. This is probably the most frustrating thing to me as somebody who is trying to help thyroid patients. I will see patients, this is a common thing, patients who are working with an endocrinologist or a family practice doctor for years, right? And this doctor has not helped them. They have, maybe tried things like levothyroxine, changed their dose around a little bit, maybe that, maybe not even that, but they're unwilling to listen to them. They're unwilling to try new therapies, and they're unwilling to really change how they look at the thyroid or how they're helping this particular person. I use helping in quotes here. This particular person has lived with with the symptoms that they're living with for years and years and years. The doctor doesn't know what it feels like to be in your shoes. They don't know what it feels like to have fatigue, to have hair loss, to have weight gain, to not be able to lose weight, to have constipation, to have all these symptoms. And if you're sitting there working with somebody who really isn't working with you, what are you doing? You're really just wasting your time. So what I say is act fast here. You need to be doing things. If you are working with somebody who hasn't helped you and it's been 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, it's probably time to search out a new doctor and move on. I've seen patients who have worked with doctors for years and years and years, and they're just literally wasting years of their life in working with somebody who is not actually helping them. So what I want you to do is act fast. If you are going to look for a new doctor, then do it right away. Don't sit and wait on it. Don't think about, well, I'll do this in the beginning of the next year because it's going to be hard. Yes, it can be hard. Yes, it can be difficult. You need to be moving quickly when you have a thyroid problem because the consequences are just so drastic on your life. You're talking about losing years of not having energy, not living the way you want to live, not being able to enjoy the things that you want to do, having mood problems and hormone problems and weight problems. Why would you live with these things longer than you have to? Act fast if you can and move and try to get better as quickly as you possibly can. Number 2, start small. All right. So if you are somebody who has just been diagnosed with thyroid problems, you will know that there is a wealth of information available. And I mean a huge amount of information. Probably so much that one person, you could consume it and you could go through it, but it would take months and months and months of you having like a full-time job looking at this information all day, every day. All right. That can be overwhelming to people. I get that. But here's the thing. These things are helpful even if you don't do everything all at once. So starting small is going to be very important because starting small is better than doing, it acts as if you're doing something rather than nothing. And nothing is the worst thing that you could do, right? So instead of trying to do everything all at once or trying to figure out everything before you move, act fast, still do something, but start small in the process. So if that means just maybe changing your diet just a little bit, you don't have to go maybe all gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free all at once. Maybe that's overwhelming to you. That's fine. But at least try to maybe take gluten out of 60% of your meals, or try to, eat out 50% of what you're eating out now, or whatever it is. Just move slowly in the right direction. And that's going to have more impact and it's going to mean more on your overall health than just doing nothing at all or becoming overwhelmed and just sinking back to your previous habits. That's not going to be helpful. So act fast, start small, do something, and keep doing things. Number 3, you have to learn from your mistakes. All right. So here's the thing about managing the thyroid, and this is going to come up in the next couple ones here. But what I want you to understand is you as an individual are different from the same person next to you who has the same type of thyroid problem. Even though you both have the same thyroid condition, you are both considered individuals, and you both are going to have different ways that you go about treating your thyroid problem and how you go about feeling better. All right. That means that while you may be able to listen to the things that other person has said and done, it's not going to always translate directly to what you're doing. And that also means you're going to have to keep track of and take account of the things that you have done and whether or not those things have worked. So that may mean that somebody that, again, let's imagine a scenario in which 2 people have the exact same disease and one of them is using a medication like Tirosint. So you think, oh my gosh, I'll use Tirosint. But guess what happens when you use it? You use it, you feel worse. You need to keep track of that. You need to pay attention to that. You need to learn from your mistakes and use that information to help you become better. Now, you can gather information from other people. That's okay. In fact, that's what I do a lot. I tell you a lot of the things that have worked for other people. But whenever I talk generally, I'm never giving you specific medical advice or specific information that you need to take and apply. I'm just saying, hey guys, this has worked for some people, but it doesn't always work for everybody. You can take that information, keep track of it, and learn from your mistakes as you go. So it's really important to keep some sort of log, keep some sort of diary, keep some sort of journal. It doesn't really matter what. Just keep track of the things that you have done and how they have made you feel and whether or not they have worked. Because I can promise you, it's going to take a little bit of trial and error. And that's completely normal. Very rarely, even after all of the information that I've acquired over the years, very rarely do I ever tell somebody, hey, you need to take this medication at this dose, take these supplements, eat this diet, and that's going to be all you need to do. It very rarely ever works out that way. I usually have to make tweaks to a lot of these things along the way. And we do get them back to 100%, but it requires those tweaks along the way. And what we're doing is we're essentially just learning from the mistakes as we go, and we're using trial and error to get there. So number 3, learn from your mistakes. Number 4, listen to people who have done it before. This is another one of those frustrating things, and I have no idea why this is. Maybe it's human nature, but I have seen this so many times. We'll be on social media, and someone will say some random comment, and they'll say, hey, you should try cranberry juice. I started taking cranberry juice, and it helped my thyroid. Then we'll see a bunch of other people will say, how much did you take, and what are you taking, and how are you using it? And these are people that are they're desperate for help, so they're latching on to the person that they can who's providing advice, and they're listening to that advice as if it's going to be helpful. Now, so much of this, as I've seen it out there unfold, I know that it's going to have absolutely no impact, and yet these people are just following it. So when you're going to follow advice or listen to somebody, make sure you're listening to somebody who has done it before. And what I mean by done it before is somebody who has gotten back to 100% optimization. If you are talking to somebody about who's giving you advice on weight loss, but they haven't lost weight themselves, that's probably not the best source to go to. I know that that's not a universal truth, but it generally works better if you're talking to somebody who has done it before. So in the case of thyroid, that means complete optimization with normal weight, no hair loss, no constipation. They have complete management or control over their thyroid medication to the point that they have it fine-tuned to exactly the dose that they need, and they have zero symptoms of their thyroid of a thyroid problem. That is someone who has got their thyroid completely under control. So often do I see patients listen to people who don't even have their own thyroid under control, but are giving advice as if they know what they're talking about. Now, one other point here that's worth paying attention to or discussing, and that is there may be one person who got it right for themselves, and that might have been luck, all right? Because you have to realize that when you were talking about managing your thyroid, everyone's going to be a little bit different. I have seen people who take a vitamin D supplement and maybe exercise a little bit more, get out in the sun, and they have reversed their Hashimoto's. That actually happens. Then on the other hand, there are people who must, talk about detoxification routines and protocols, and they get on all sorts of medications and take supplements and take low dose naltrexone and fast and, go on the AIP diet. So there's variance in terms of what works for each person. So it might just be lucky the person that got their thing under control, got their condition under control, and you're trying to listen and copy them when that doesn't apply to you. So instead of focusing on one person who has managed their conditions, look for somebody who has managed multiple people's. So in other words, somebody who has done this more than once. If somebody has done this more than once and got somebody completely optimized and back to 100%, then that's a good person that you probably want to listen to because their information applies to more than just one person. Okay, number 5, I think we're on. I think it's number 5. Be consistent. So probably one of the most important traits that you can develop, I think, as a human, is that of consistency. Consistency is going to be the thing that's going to separate you from most people. Because here's what happens. Most people get excited for just about a week or two, right? These people can get excited to make some changes. Maybe they think to themselves, okay, I'm going to go gluten-free and dairy-free and soy-free, and I'm going to do this. And maybe they do it for 1 or 2 weeks. And maybe they do it better than you. Maybe they do it 100%. They eliminate everything for 2 weeks. But a lot of people lack that consistency and that follow-through. And what that results in is they go really hard in the beginning, but then they do not continue. It's far better for you to be consistent and do less, but be consistent every single day in doing that. And as you are consistent and as you get a little bit better, as you learn from your mistakes, as you act fast and start small, you will be the one who ends up at the finish line first. You will be the one who gets back your thyroid function back to 100% optimization compared to the people who are acting really, they're doing everything all at once, but then they're petering out after 1 or 2 weeks. So I cannot talk about how important consistency is when it comes to pretty much anything in life or anything when you're trying to make a new goal or establish a new skill, but especially in the case of thyroid or managing your thyroid, it is very important as well. Be consistent. Then lastly, we need to talk about focus, but don't obsess. All right, so here's what I mean. When we're talking about the thyroid, it's really easy to be consumed with all of the information and to go too deep into the rabbit hole. And what I mean by that is I've seen, and I can tell by the way, when people are asking me certain types of questions, I know that this person has gone just too deep. They've missed everything about this, and they've gone down some rabbit hole that they think is going to solve their problem, but they're missing everything else. They're missing the big picture. So I want you to focus in the sense that you realize that managing your thyroid is very important, and it's going to have a huge impact on your life, but do not obsess over the things that don't matter. Okay, and don't make your disease your identity. And because I've seen this happen as well, and people, it gets to the point where almost they don't want to feel better because that is what they are. Their thyroid has controlled their life, and that has become their identity. You don't want to get to that point either. But focusing on it to the point that you know that it's a problem and you know you want to manage it is sort of that sweet spot. So that's why I say focus, but do not obsess, because the obsession can cause a problem as well. And we now have medical and conditions known that where we know people are obsessing too much over their health. One of those is orthorexia. And this is the unhealthy obsession with healthy eating, right? Where people get so consumed with eating healthy that it actually becomes an unhealthy and pathological problem for that person. So avoid that sort of area, that obsession, but stay focused on the prize and managing your thyroid. So I would say these are probably the most important things that I can come up with, and the lessons that I wish that every thyroid patient would know before, preferably before they got diagnosed. But even if you've had this condition for some time, hopefully this information is helpful to you. If you have any questions about this, please leave your comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure that you download my free thyroid PDF resources. I have tons of information, all similar to this actually, and even more in depth when it comes to managing the thyroid, but all designed to help thyroid patients feel better. So if you haven't already, make sure you download that. And otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one.